Hi there. Welcome to the second in a series of videos about how to use Managebac effectively in your MYP class. In this video, we're going to look at the basics of setting up a unit for the MYP class. We're going to look at only the basics in this video. We'll worry about some of the more advanced features in a later video. In the previous video, we created two classes for Mr. McFake, a sophomore physics class that has two separate sections. Now, one of the nice things about Managebac is that even though we have separate sections of the class, I don't have to enter the unit multiple times. This is because Managebac stores your units in your subject, not your class. This means that even though I have two separate classes, since they're both listed as Year 5 physics classes, the units will be in both classes at the same time. Now, to set up units, I'm going to click on the Units tab. Normally, I'd see several units here with the most current one on top, but today I see nothing because Mr. McFake hasn't had any units added. Now, before we start adding units, it's important to know that a unit is not a lesson, and it's not a chapter. A unit is a way of organizing a large amount of content, tasks, and approaches to learning in order to help students see the larger picture behind how all these things tie together. For example, in my Waves chapter, students are going to learn a lot of things, they're going to do a lot of things, and they'll learn how to do a lot of things. But all these activities should all tie together to help them understand one big cohesive idea. In order to understand how all the things in the unit tie together, we need to start with a big picture view, and then we can get more detailed. In this video, we're going to look at that big picture view that helps us understand what we want the students to know at the end of the unit. I'm going to start by clicking on Create a Unit Plan. Now I'm going to call this the Waves unit. I'm going to have this unit last 9 weeks. Now, since I'm recording this in December, I'm going to have the actual unit start on the 3rd week of December. Understand that obviously you wouldn't do this in real life. If you're confused about what week is which, I've created a link to a document in the link below that'll help you understand which week to use. So go ahead and look at that. I click on Save Changes and I've made my unit. So far, so good. This is now the page where I can edit my unit. Now, no changes really are necessary on this page right now. Please do not mark this as an interdisciplinary unit. MYP has very specific requirements for an interdisciplinary unit, so don't just click it to make yourself look good and to get brownie points. I'm going to click on the Inquiry and Purpose tab above. This is where we're going to be focusing today. This is where the big picture behind the unit is. Now, in my Waves unit, I think about waves. Waves are very ignored in everyday life. A lot of times we don't see waves, but they're very crucial for us. And I want students to understand how we use the waves in our lives and how we have changed because of them. I can think since my childhood, life has completely changed because of how we're able to use waves. My key concept in this chapter is going to be systems, because I want to describe how multiple devices and components all fit together and how we can manipulate and harness the waves. The related concepts I've chosen, now understand these related concepts are specific for physics. You might see different related concepts. In fact, you might add your own related concepts. But in this case, I'm going to select form because I want the students to understand what a wave is, what are the different types of waves. I want development because I want the students to think about how we have developed things and how the use of waves has changed. And interaction because I want to understand how do we interact with waves. The conceptual understanding ties those first two things together. In this case, I'm going to use several of the systems built by our society. Please ignore all spelling errors. That's what spell check is for. Have been developed to use waves in different ways. Seeing, hearing, and feeling. Now, I don't pretend that this is the perfect conceptual understanding. All I'm doing is combining my key concept with my related concepts. The global context are basically 6 different choices that help a student understand, why am I studying this? Helps them understand how this topic fits into their lives. In this case, I selected the global context of identity and relationships because I want the students to understand, what do waves have to do with us? How are waves useful? Now, there's some further options. I went ahead and selected this 4th option because I want to look at social development, I want to look at health, well-being, and lifestyle choices in my unit. Below that, we see the statement of inquiry. The statement of inquiry ties everything we've done so far together. The statement of inquiry is the big picture behind everything we do. This is the thing that we want the students to understand at the end of the unit. Everything we do in this unit should be designed to help the students understand this statement of inquiry. Now, I'm going to type very fast, and I'm going to say the statement of inquiry is: the systems we have developed to use waves in many ways have shaped our identity and changed the way we interact with each other. As I go through the rest of this unit, planning this unit, I want everything that I do to in some way be guided towards this statement of inquiry. All the content that I cover should help the students understand this. All the labs I have them do, or all the activities they do, should be guided to help the students understand this idea, this statement of inquiry. Now that I've got this statement of inquiry, I can move on, do some of the more advanced things. But we've got to do the big picture first. The final thing I'll need to add for this page is the inquiry questions. Now, the inquiry questions are questions that the students should be able to see and be able to think about, whether they understand them or not, and help guiding their instruction. These used to be called the essential questions or the essential understandings or whatnot, depending on what fad you're looking at. But these are some of the big questions from the chapter. Now, on a typical unit, I would have several inquiry questions based on how many different big topics I talked about in that unit. In this case, I'm just going to add one, and I'm going to say that how do the eye and brain work to see light? Now, this is a big question. It requires students to understand things about light, things about the eye, things about the brain, all things we're going to cover in this unit. Since it's a little bit tougher than a simple definition, I'm going to mark this as a conceptual question. Now, as we go through the chapter, the students should be able to answer this question in the process of understanding the statement of inquiry. Now, when I hit Save Change, I'm going to go ahead and go back and save all this information. And I want to show you and prove to you that these units are saved in both classes. So if I go to my first year class, you'll see the current unit is Waves. And if I click on the second period class, again, the unit is Waves. It didn't change. Remember, the unit is categorized by the subject, not the class.